Hi, it's Pastor Jane here, and today I wanted to share some notes with you on the topic of love. So, love is a big topic, and the Greeks understood that. The fact is, the word love, the English word that we use, actually represents 7 different Greek words, all portraying different aspects that we simply lump together as love. And that's the problem. We've trivialized the topic by suggesting that I love chocolate ice cream, meaning that my love is towards my preferences for food items. We've sometimes even made it a little sinister in that love is used to describe lust. It's not the same thing. But the love that the New Testament writers were most concerned with was that of the love of God, agape love. And First John does an incredible job of describing God's agape love. It really is for John the benchmark of what God's children are to be, how we are to act even. Because in First John alone, I don't know if you realize this, but agape love is used 31 times in his short little letter, 31 times as a verb, something that we're to do. But he also uses it 21 times as a noun, something we are to be. So love is not just an attitude, it's also an action. They work together. So I wanted to read 1 John 2, 7 and 8 for us today. It says, "Dear friends, I'm not writing a new commandment for you. Rather, it is an old one you have had from the very beginning. This old commandment, to love one another, is the same message you heard before. Yet it's also new. Jesus lived the truth of this commandment, and you are also living it. For the darkness is disappearing and the true light is already shining." See, John reminds his readers that God's original Old Testament commandment to love God and to love others is still in force. It's been around a long time. He then reminds them all of Jesus' final things that he commanded his followers, recorded in his gospel. It says, "So now I'm going to give you a new commandment, to love each other just as I have loved you. You should love one another. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you're my disciples." And that's from John chapter 13. See, living as Jesus did in obedience is the key to proving our connection with God. If we say we love God but hate others, we're liars. That's what John tells us. He cuts to the chase. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you love, you love. If you don't love, then you don't. You don't know agape love, God's unconditional love, which we are to exemplify and we are to give out. So it's the proof that we are connected to God. I also wanted to read for you just from 1 John 2, verse 6, so the verse before. And John reminds us, he says, "Those who say they live in God should live their lives as Jesus did." He epitomized what agape love was. So I just wanted to go through some examples. How did Jesus show love? Well, take, for example, his washing of the disciples' feet, right? That was a tangible act of love. And it shows that there isn't any job that is too yucky or gross or beneath us that we can do to demonstrate love for another. Jesus loved children. His disciples assumed he had no time for them, and they tried to chase them away. And Jesus rebuked them, brought them in, gave them hugs instead, and he blessed them. What about Jesus' attitude towards those who were supposed to be his enemies, the Samaritans? Well, he really threw his disciples for a loop in that one, because they assumed that Jesus thought like they did and that he would hate the Samaritans. Instead, he made them the heroes of stories and even chose to go to Samaria and let them know that he, the Messiah, had come. Jesus loved crowds. I don't know about you, but I sometimes have my fill of crowds. But all the time, Jesus had people around him. How did he treat them? Did he treat them as a nuisance? No. He fed them. He healed them. He taught them on multiple occasions, meeting their needs. And finally, what about Jesus and sinners? The ones who are just doing the wrong things, the outcasts. Well, again, if you look at Matthew 11, we're told that Jesus hung out with the wrong people, according to the religious leaders of his day, and they accused him of being a glutton and a drunkard. Well, he wasn't either. There simply wasn't anyone he considered beneath him and unworthy of his love, his time, and attention. That is agape love. That is unconditional love. And so to apply it to ourselves, we need to ask, how can we serve others? Not just how can we be nice to people? How can we serve them? Who needs our encouragement? A hug, maybe. Who needs to hear about Jesus and his incredible love? What needs, tangible needs, can I meet? Nothing should be beneath our ability or our willingness. And who do we need to maybe take the time to get to know, to encourage, to show God's incredible love? Because oftentimes people will not realize that a God of love exists until they see him at work in us.